Once you generate your first note, the first aha moment happens usually for our users. They're like, whoa, this is magic.
We probably are getting to a place where we actually have to just assume that we're kind of being recorded all the time.
None of our sub-processors, transcription providers, or LLM providers can train on any of our customer data. It's feeding off a paradigm where if we write something down, that's what matters.
It's done once it's written down, right?
It's written down, therefore it's like
done.
Court of law, you know? I think we have a responsibility as like the generation that's like building and growing with AI, that we show them how to use it, but also show them, think about what it is that the output is. Critique it.
Hello and welcome back to Trust Issues. I'm Ailish, and this is the show where we read the label on AI together so you can decide what's worth putting in your basket and what isn't. Today we're talking about a product I really love, granola. And no, it's not the kind you have for breakfast. If you haven't come across it yet, Granola is an AI note taker. But it's not one that joins your meetings as like a weird third wheel. It sits on your device, syncs with your calendar, and transcribes your calls in the background. You don't have to invite it. You don't have to apologize to the person on the other end of the Zoom for the bot just randomly sitting in the corner. It's just there, doing the work. I've been using it since the early days, and I'm not the only one. People genuinely go wild for it. In fact, when my company tried to move off it to a different product, there was actual uproar. So this is one of those rare AI tools that has clearly earned its place. And I'm buzzing to spend an episode on this because there's a lot to learn about getting the most out of a product that's materially changed how we work. But also because the products we love, the ones we reach for every single day, are the ones whose implications we actually need to think most carefully about. Quick bit of backstory because I think it matters. Granola came about because its founders, Chris and Sam, bonded over one simple idea: that the way we work is fundamentally flawed. Because what happens in meetings gets lost afterwards. They actually met in a community whose whole focus was thinking about how software can extend the way we think rather than do the thinking for us. So they set out to build a tool that helps with the work that meetings create, not just a note taker. So today, I want to look at Granola from a few angles. On the one hand, Granola has clearly solved an important problem, and its success shows that. It hit unicorn status in March of this year, valued at $1.5 billion. And the growth shows no signs of slowing down. So I want to dig into what's actually working, why people are reaching for it the way they are, and what else we can get from it. The tools and features we may be sleeping on, and where this product is likely to go as it continues to shape the future of work. But though I use it a lot, two things keep coming up for me that I'd like to dig into a bit more. The first is a privacy question. When my conversation gets transcribed and passed to a language model so it can write the summary, what happens to that data? Where does it go? Could a sensitive thing I said in a customer call end up in a model's weight somewhere? Could my proprietary internal conversations get leaked somehow? It's not a paranoid question, it's just a question, and I'd like a clear answer. The second one is harder, and it's not really Granola's problem to solve, it's mine. And it's part of a wider philosophical question about what we lose when we outsource to tech and particularly to AI. I've started noticing that my brain has learned not to remember conversations anymore, not just at work. I reach for Granola to check out what I talked with my mum on the phone about, with my friend over coffee. The tool is doing such a good job of remembering for me that my brain seems to have decided it doesn't need to do the work of retaining conversations anymore, and I'm worried about what that means for my brain. So that's where we're heading today. The product, the use cases, what it's unlocking, and the bits I think we should keep our eyes on. My guest today is Camilla Bier, and she was one of the earliest users of the product before she ever joined the team. Before Granola, she was building out commercial functions at early stage AI startups, and before that, she'd been working on the responsible AI side of things, which is a thread that has clearly stayed with her. She is someone who is selling an AI product and is also thinking seriously about what good AI adoption actually looks like. Those two things don't always sit comfortably together, and I wanted to talk to someone who is genuinely trying to hold both. Let's get into it. This episode is brought to you by Unlikely AI. They make what seems impossible to achieve in AI possible. Explainable, accurate, consistent AI for regulated industries. If you're in banking, accounting, insurance, or anywhere compliance matters, that's a bigger deal than it sounds. Most AI can't deliver that. Check them out at unlikely.ai. You're very welcome. Thanks for joining us, Camilla.
Thanks for having me.
I think Granola has like obviously really hit a nerve. I feel everyone's like, my top 5 AI tools always has Granola at the top, right? Like it is definitely infiltrated the working world, and the reviews are super positive and really excited. Tell us, like, what's it actually solving for people that they couldn't do before?
Yeah, I think it's really simple in principle. It's like capture conversations, make that context useful, and drive decisions as a result. So it's like really simple as a concept. Before you had something like Granola, conversations would kind of happen, and then maybe there would be like a static document somewhere. And I don't know about you, but like my working life up until now has been like a reflection back to some kind of database of outdated information. Yeah. Like it's feeding off a paradigm where if we write something down, that's what matters.
It's done once it's written down, right?
It's written down, therefore it's like done. Court of law, you know? Now, like we're in a different world where we can capture conversations. And what happens when you capture conversations, like you make faster decisions, you can reflect on those, you can actually do more work with it. So that's where we've started, is basically make a really good AI notepad that people really love. Yeah. But that's the start.
Amazing. Yeah. I think, but I mean, it is funny because like, I think when you think about work, like, okay, there's different skill sets and different jobs and stuff, but it really boils down to a few things. Yeah. You have meetings. Yeah. And you send messages. Yes. Like that's it really. That's it. Like, okay, maybe like developers write code or whatever. Yeah. But like honestly, most of work is literally about like the conversations that you have. And I think everyone can relate to this idea where you show up to a day at work and you have back-to-back calls. You get to the end of the day and you go, I had no time to do any work, even though like obviously that is the work, but all a call does is like give you more work to do, but then no time to actually act on it. Yes. So I think, this is like, I want to get back to the way you've kind of framed it, which I thought was really interesting. But I think really what you're kind of alleviating is, or like what you're building is like database of conversations. It is. Which then I think, as you said, then allows you to do stuff with that rather than we have a conversation, I take a notepad, I write it down, and then what?
Yes, 100%. I mean, what's been interesting with Granola is like, we see Granola being adopted at like the highest level of an org first. So it's like the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, the like founder of an amazing startup. Like we just see that time and again. And I think like part of that is just that these are really busy creatures in back-to-back meetings. Like if you make that executive's life just like a tiny bit easier, like that's really meaningful to the rest of the company. So yeah, for sure. Like I think capturing conversations, making that context useful, like it's really resonated with a lot of people. And frankly, like the outpouring of love has been like, I think we were all like a bit like, wow, this is a lot. Like we just built this thing, like amazing that it works, you know?
And what would you say when people say like, because it's not just a note taker, right? And I think when you start to use it and start to realize and kind of, as I said, I sort of think about it as like a database of like my work, really. Like when someone says like, puts you in a bracket comparing you to other note takers, what do you say to that? Like, how do you help them understand and see it differently?
Yeah, well, I think like the category is forming. So I do think there's like a level of truth to it where companies are making decisions as to like, how are we going to capture these conversations? And that window is like now. Yeah. So there's definitely like a fair bit of truth to that. But I think like if you were to reduce the value of Granola to like a transcription tool, that would be like doing Granola a disservice, because power users and anyone like really using the tool to the full value is like, you know, they capture the conversations, they share those conversations, they like delegate action items, they use recipes like advanced prompts within Granola. They use our MCP connector, and then, you know, the world is your oyster from that point after. So at that point, it becomes like the meeting is like the wedge. it's like the start, but it's not the end point.
Yeah.
And those organizations who see that, and a lot of them do, immediately see the value. And immediately it becomes like a much bigger piece to like how are organizations actually going to do this like AI thing of giving people the right context at the right time, and like this race to make institutionalized knowledge more like accessible to the employee at the right time. And I think because Granola is so loved, so loved, it leads to such high adoption. Like that's the cool thing. And what happens when there's high adoption with Granola? Well, guess what? You get more context. So then what happens with that context? Well, guess what? Like then all the other things happen. So all that to say is like other note takers like also have built like a brilliant tool, but Granola is not quite that.
Yeah.
And I think, and then there's obviously like feature differences. Like, you know, we don't have a bot that joins the call. Like, you know, it picks up on system audio. We do real-time transcription, not like post-call transcription. So there is also like, if you get into the features, like a lot of differences, but like from a value perspective, it's like we're really not positioning ourselves as a note taker, more so as like a contextual aware workspace.
Yeah. And I think it changes how work gets done, right? Which is actually super needed, which speaks to why it's been so successful, but also really exciting because I think like, you know, we were speaking before we started, like there's a lot of doom and gloom around AI. There's a lot of things that are less good potentially, but there are some places where I've just been crying out for ways to make that function better. And I think this is one of those, which is really exciting. You mentioned a few things there. Well, first recipe, which I think is really funny because I read that it's called granola because one of your founders was literally eating granola at some point in the like early process.
Completely random.
So random. Enjoy that. Yeah. I'm also wearing granola green today, which was just
I love it.
Actually,
I was like, should I dress up in merch? And then I was like, no, I'm coming as a creature, a person.
A creature. You're here as a creature. You're capacity as a creature. This was actually accidental.
I love it.
Thank you. It's new.
It's good.
Yeah, okay,
very good.
Just for the occasion.
I love it.
But you mentioned a few things like the recipes and the MCP and stuff. Okay, if I haven't used it before, tell me like how does Granola work? Like what's happening? Yeah.
So Granola sits as an application on your device. So on your laptop, or we also have an iOS app. And what it does is that it picks up on system audio in real time. So actually picks up on audio from your mic or from your like headphones or coming out of your laptop, whatever. And we transcribe in real time. You can actually see it on the application when you start a note. And then at the end of the meeting, like the output that's created is a great summary. That's like really simple terms, how it works. It's connected to your calendar. So like you can start and stop it at any point, but you can also attach it to a specific meeting. And so it's really cool because you can use it in like right now. I could put it live in an impromptu meeting.
I have it on.
Good. Very good. So like on the fly, it's really helpful. You can also do it for scheduled meetings, like doesn't matter. And so the output is this like brilliant summary. You can do a lot of stuff with that. You can like put it into a template and format it in a specific way. And then what we have is like a whole workspace where notes are organized by like people you've spoken to, companies you've spoken to. You can attach it into folders that you can then share with teammates. So it becomes this whole like workspace of conversational context that everyone can then query against and look at. So for instance, at Granola, we have like folders for different teams. We have a folder for the sales team. Every sales conversation runs in there. Our founders can go in, they can query against those notes and say like, hey, what are the top deals that the team is working on this week? And then we have like the sort of chat functionality. That's, I think, when you start to see some of this like, you know, I guess like once you generate your first note, the first aha moment happens usually for our users. They're like, whoa, this is magic. Like, go try it. The second aha moment, I think, is when you start using Granola Chat, because you can then find much more richer context in there. We launched agentic chat a couple weeks ago. it's completely changed my life. Like I can query against every single conversation that the team has had, full stop, against a theme. So let's say we're about to like release a feature. Let's call it like a new integration. I could query against every single conversation we've had with customers and flag which customers have asked for that integration. Guess what? Then we go out and tell them that we have it live.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. Yeah, that's broadly speaking how it works.
Okay, cool. And like lots of things I want to dig into on that. But
yeah, sorry, that was a lot. Monologue.
It was great. Before we do, so like, because I think, you know, people who listen to this show, they, and myself included, are curious and want to know how things are working, because I think the whole thing with this like super fast moving world is like I can feel like more comfortable making decisions about how and when to engage with different products and tools and just like AI and the tech landscape in general when I understand like
how it works,
how it's working, like what's happening.
Yeah.
So, you know, at a high level, like it clicks on because I've started this conversation. Like what's happening? Yeah.
I think that's fair. I think one of the reasons why people love Granola, it's because it's like deceptively simple.
Okay.
Like it's like a really easy way for someone who maybe hasn't quite had the guts to try all these different AI tools and maybe feels like, oh God, the world is racing ahead and I'm like here. Like definitely try Granola. It's like one of those magical tools that you will intuitively get. Behind the scenes, what happens is that as we pick up on system audio, we have relationships with transcription providers, DeepGram and Assembly. They actually transcribe live for us on calls. So the audio is sent there. No audio is stored. Yeah. So we don't capture any audio. We don't capture any video. But it's transcribed live using these third-party vendors. After the conversation, that transcript is then sent to our LLM providers. We use OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google.
Okay. The three biggies.
The three biggies. We use a mix of them. It's mainly Anthropic in the summaries, but we always want to work with like the best models at the right time, you know? So we sent the transcript to those guys and they essentially give us the output of the summary. So that's like in sort of a triangle how it works. After that, if you want to use like Granola Chat, you can like pick what model you want to use. Like there's a lot of cool stuff, but that's roughly how it works.
So you are coordinating these different tools and technologies?
Yes.
And what you've built is that like orchestration and bringing it all together and deciding obviously when and how to incorporate and use different things.
Correct. And like we have, it's deceptively simple in the way that, you know, you look at it and you're like, cool, I'm just going to try to like build it. The thing is, so much thought has been gone into both like the prompts that sit behind the scenes that generate the notes, into the UI that you work with as a user. Granola is like super loved, and even like it's almost mirrored that of like, I think like Slack in early days, you know, like it's one of those tools where it's like, I think if people were trying to rip out Slack from your work and they said like use Teams, like like you'd probably throw a fuss.
People would leave.
People would leave, right? Like there are a few tools that are like that. I think Granola could become one of those.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Do you then not have your own like Granola model, or like how does that work? Like,
yeah, we're developing it. Like we rely on third-party models because they're really good at it. Like we don't think we need to develop our own like LLM. We will develop like our own models that improves Granola itself, and we may do stuff like customer-specific models and things like that. But not yet.
Gotcha. So you mentioned the second aha moment, and I definitely had that. So I remember someone told me that I'm an attention lapser.
Yeah.
Like I fall asleep, I get distracted, especially when I'm having conversations because my brain's off elsewhere.
Yeah.
And a former colleague told me that she often when that happens to her, she uses the what did I just miss?
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, the what? So it's like a button that says, what did I just miss? And then I started using that and it like changed my life. I was, I was sold then. That really, really did it for me because I felt like I could drift off and I'd be saved.
Yes.
Which was great. But, what are some ways that you think people are sleeping on, or some like ways of using it, or things that they could be doing with it that are really useful, really powerful, that maybe are not as well known?
Yeah, I think recipes is definitely one of them. We have at Granola built recipes that everyone can use, and people do use them, but I wish they used them more because they can just like, and you can create your own.
Tell me what you say recipe. Yeah. I mean, I like that it fits in the granola theme. Yeah. This is great. But like, what is it? What's happening?
It's essentially advanced prompts that, think about a long prompt like, hey, I want you to look at this transcript and tell me with what did I miss? Like, tell me from the last 2 minutes, like, what are the key things that have been talked about? Summarize it in like 4 bullet points. And like that whole prompt is hidden. All you press is a button that says, what did I miss? Okay. But you can do that for one meeting live during a meeting. You can do it for like a group of meetings. So one of the things, for instance, I built a recipe yesterday because we have a San Francisco team now. And I was feeling like, oh gosh, like I need to remember to tell them about these product changes that are coming up. And we'd had all these team meetings. So I built a recipe which was like, hey, of these 5 team meetings, like take out the key things that the sales team in San Francisco should care about. They care about these 5 things, like summarize it into bullet point, make it concise. And so the output of that is like just so good. And you can just go ahead and build that yourself. So the main like thought process I have there is like, take something that you repeat, that you do quite often. Maybe you do the same type of prep before a meeting every time. And you maybe look at your old granola notes and you think like, okay, these 5 things are the things that I care about. I always care about it before this meeting. I always ask it from Granola chat, like build a recipe.
Okay. So it reminds me, when you describe it like that, it reminds me a little bit of like a project you have in Claude or a custom GPT or something like that.
Yeah.
I think one of my... and I got inspiration from some of the ones that you have already on Granola, but I built a discovery coach. Yeah. So like, cool. It's so tempting. You'll know in discovery calls, you're supposed to not lead and you're supposed not to talk that much. And you're trying to ask questions that aren't like future predictive, but more like what have actually happened. So I got it to like critique me across some metrics afterwards, which I found really useful.
That's very cool. Yeah. So people have built like MedPick like recipes as well. So like take my team's like recent sales calls and tell me where they're not leaning into the qualification framework we've put in place. Like flag to me where I need to give them advice. It can be really powerful.
Like, is there a risk with that then that everyone's being kind of watched all the time?
Well, I think there are certain, so Granola notes are private by default. Like you have to choose to share them. Sure. I think there are some areas of every business where that doesn't make any sense. So like sales calls, I think we're like, I'm a rep. You work with customers. Like everyone in sales, like the expectation is like, please read my notes. Like take from them what you will. Obviously in in my internal one-to-ones, like I do not want that to be shared wide. I do not want anyone to watch that. That is private to me and I choose not to share it. Yeah. No, Granola is like privacy like first. Like we really, really care about the individual user. So notes are private by default. We're building stuff that makes it easier for those units specifically to share notes automatically to like a CRM or something like that. But I agree with you. Like in general, like it would be a detriment to the user if like we built something for the purposes of monitoring whether you were doing a good job at something. I think what we care about way more is like if you like get the right resource, if people get the right context, if you choose to share it.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And realistically, I mean, I was sort of just playing devil's avocado there, but like
avocado.
I'm sort of dressed for it. But I it always, like I feel like people could feel under pressure, right? If like their calls were then being assessed
100%.
against other people's. But in sales, you probably want that actually.
Well, you look at something like Gong, right?
Yeah.
And like Gong, like a sales leader can go in and like literally repeat and listen to old calls that like reps have had. Like, I think like, and that makes sense, right? Like, I think like that's helpful. Like, tell me how I can improve. Like, great. Like monitoring whether like my one-to-ones are going, that's not the right setting.
Yes.
So, I think it depends, but yeah, I hear you.
Cool. And so we should all be exploring the recipes a bit more. And I think, thinking about them for tasks that are repetitive or where you want to understand more about like groups of conversations or different things like that. Is there anything else that you think people should be exploring to get the most out of Granola? Yeah,
I think, there's so much stuff that's hidden in the tool. It's kind of difficult to pick. I think for someone like you, like definitely agentic chat will be like huge for you. Like when you're doing like customer research or, even if you want to from a meeting, like, if you want to like delegate tasks or something like that, like agentic chat is just like really brilliant for doing something that's feels a bit more tuned to like deep diving into a topic. And I think over time, like we'll be able to do like deep queries in Granola and like actually create like artifacts if we wanted to from it. But I think that's the starting point, agentic chat. You access it like literally from your homepage, just go into chat and then you can ask like anything, but it will reference the meetings where it's grabbing it from. So there's like a really good sense of like user trust in that setting as well. So I think that's the second thing I would look at in Granola. But actually like I always recommend, it's just like if you have not tried Granola, it's free to try. Just like give it a go. Yeah. Give it a go even for like if you don't want to use it on like a work meeting yet, like give it a go on with like a mate, like
see what you get.
Yeah, 100%.
The agentic chat, that reminds me of Notebook LM kind of. You're sort of like making your own language model or resource of things that you can query. Is that where you get a lot of inspiration? Is like other things that are out there, but then using them in the context that is the conversations that you're having?
Yeah, I think sometimes like we are definitely an organization that looks at other tools for like inspiration of what they've done well. Like Slack is like obviously something that has like an emotional connection to a lot of people. I think we look at Slack as like wow, you guys like have built something amazing. We have a lot of like designers at Granola that really like look at Figma as a tool as like, wow, Figma is like super good at what they do. Like
designers love Figma.
I mean, they love Figma. I love Figma, but like
they really love.
I mean, they really love Figma. Yeah. So we look at tools for inspiration, but specifically for agentic chat, no, not really. Like it came out from this idea that we within the team and our customers wanted to be able to do deeper queries within Granola that could leverage more meetings at a time. We had this like chat functionality, which was really brilliant, but you could use it against like one meeting or maybe a couple of meetings, but the sort of context window was quite short. And so for something like, for instance, what I said, like if we release a new feature, we want to look at which customers have asked for that feature in the past. Like I couldn't in the past like do such a deep query. And it was actually, if we think of like our layers of leverage within an organization to leaders within an organization, that became like a bit of a bottleneck because you actually do want to query against a bigger context layer. So no, not really, but like, yes, in general, of course, we look at other tools. Like we'd be doing the world a disservice if we didn't.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Makes sense. And is there anything that you've heard of someone using Granola for that like really surprised or shocked you?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of there's some heartwarming scenarios. Like we get outpouring a lot to, especially to our founders and to our customer experience teams. There's been a couple of like unlikely scenarios, like someone has used it for a medical appointment for their very ill parent. And, you know, if bad stuff comes around and like you're really stressed in the scenario, it can be really difficult to like take notes and like, what did they say? And what was the medicine called? And so we don't recommend necessarily putting a ton of like personal health information in Granola.
Yeah.
But it's really heartwarming to hear about those scenarios.
I mean, you sort of mentioned it there, and I think it's something, honestly, with all AI tools, I feel like the question that like people are asking and are worried about is like data and security and privacy and all that kind of stuff. So you said there you don't really recommend taking Granola to your health appointments and kind of giving it that. Are there any other like situations and contexts where you'd sort of recommend people are not using Granola?
Yeah, I think I think generally speaking, like you want to use Granola where like, you know, people are aware that Granola is being used and like it's like an appropriate setting for note taking as well. Like I think, you know, over time I can see the world leaning more and more to being like comfortable with a note taking tool of some kind being in a lot of conversations. But in the world of like adoption, like you want to be like a good human. Like things that that we maybe don't recommend it is like, you know, like attorney-client scenarios. Like lots of lawyers don't use Granola for those scenarios. Scenarios where you put a lot of personal health information in Granola. Like we are working towards like HIPAA compliance, but before we're there, like maybe not. Companies ask me this all the time, like what are the conversations we should be using Granola for and we shouldn't? And companies take really different approaches to this. Some companies have said like, you know, anything involving HR, like let's leave Granola out, like using Granola when someone is terminated, maybe not the right use case, versus using Granola for like an internal product sync, like great use case. I spend a lot of time with our customers, like figuring out where those lines are. And it sort of depends on the industry. So like regulated customers have obligations to regulators that other industry verticals don't. I sit with a lot of our regulated customers. So that becomes a conversation of like, what are your obligations? And then what should and shouldn't we be doing? And like, let's make sure that employees have like good guidelines with where to place that.
And is that really like the extent of what you can do, presumably, is like help businesses decide what the guidelines are, and then it's sort of up to human decision, right? Like
yeah, well, I think yes and no. Like of course you can put like, of course we as an organization can help our customers with that. We are like launching like a ton of feature sets as well for, you know, making it a lot easier to see when Granola is being used and things like that. So of course, as a tool, we have like an obligation to help our customers with this. But like any tooling, like you also want to make sure that you are giving your employees the right guidelines. So I think it's like somewhat in the middle. Like, of course we want to help, but we also have to make that with like some level of like human, like intuition and decision making
and accountability.
Exactly. Yeah.
I guess like moving forward from that, and you've mentioned a couple of times like you guys really care about the user and the privacy and the data, and I think that's really important. And I think probably why people like the product, I think, you know, it's like it's that safety element and feeling like you can trust it. But tell me, like, what happens to my data? Where is it going?
Yeah.
What's the process?
Yeah. So anyone who, like, there's a couple of things, like who owns the data, what happens to that data. So in terms of the actual data, like we host everything on AWS in the East Coast in the US. We also host it on the device itself. So strictly speaking, like your data is like processed through that like triangle that I described earlier. between our transcription providers, LLM providers, and then back to the individual. And then it sits on the device, and then it also sits in the cloud with AWS. So actually what happens to your data is like it sits, static there, and you can delete it. So you have full control over that data. You can redact things from the transcript, regenerate the notes. You can retract things from the notes and regenerate them again. You have complete freedom with that. You can delete the note itself. You can delete your entire workspace, your account. So like ultimately, like we give the users a lot of control with their data. And the data is yours. So like we are not the data owner. So once you have that output, like the data is yours. Okay. Of course, if you're like on a managed workspace from an enterprise customer or something like that, you're working as an employee, and then that's like a user that's like managed by the admins, right? But if you are an individual and an individual at Granola account, like of course.
But if my data goes to those two third parties, like, do they have it? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, good question. So, no, our transcription providers, they have zero data retention. So once they've produced the transcript, which they do live, that's why you can do things like, what did I miss and whatever.
They help me ask a smart question or whatever that one is.
Totally. Or like, did we already talk about this? Yeah. I do it all the time. Yeah, so they have zero data retention. So once they produced it for us, they throw it away. With the LLM providers, they also have zero data retention for like audit logs. So like no human at like Anthropic can go and look at that data. But they have like 30 days where they retain it. And strictly speaking, it's because we like with agentic chat and with other features, like we want to help our users do longer queries. So they keep the data for a bit longer. So we're able to do that. But then they throw it away as well. So the data is really hosted in those two locations, like on your device and on AWS.
And this is not like, I think this is something I'm generally trying to understand more. But when they might not keep my data, let's say an LLM provider, but does them having access to that data, that conversation, can they use that to still sort of train and learn from?
No. So across all of our plans, whether it's free, business, enterprise, doesn't matter. None of our sub-processors, transcription providers, or LLM providers can train on any of our customer data. We have super strict enterprise contracts with them in place. So no, they can't. And it's really important that they don't as well. I think it would be breaking like a ton of trust. So no.
Okay. It's interesting because I had someone on a few months ago, Kate Minogue, who's incredible Irish woman, speaks really amazingly and articulately about AI generally.
Very cool.
And one of the things that she was saying, which is sort of like antithetical really to what we mostly think, is that sometimes there's an argument for actually letting AI train on your data, because then you influence the direction of AI a little bit more. Obviously, that's not necessary. Like, I think it makes sense to make a privacy decision about these things, but I think it's just interesting to hold those two things, because what everyone is, the question that always comes up with every kind of AI, interaction or tool is around data sensitivity and what's happening with that. And I think we don't, necessarily understand how an LLM works. It works in a black box, right? So there's always going to be that slight kind of like concern around that. But as you said, like they are, with their providers and how they're working, it's very important that when they say this isn't happening, it's not happening.
Well, I think for the foundational models, like with conversational data, I think we would be doing our customers like a big disservice if we like allow that to happen, because we host so much sensitive data, like every single sensitive conversation within an organization, like decisions that like execs are making for Fortune 500 companies, like we host so much sensitive information. I don't think it's like the right scenario to train on data. But within the Granola environment, like I can completely see that being useful. And I guess to your larger point of like general training on AI data, I sort of agree in some ways because like there's a subset of the world that are working on these foundational models. And like, I think it's really important that subset of people is like representative, diverse, and all that. And like, you know, and that's like not quite the world that we're living in.
Yeah.
So definitely, I do think there's an argument for that. But I also think us working in AI, like it's important. One of the things that really attracted me to Granola is that I work with a group of people that have like a relentless optimism for where the world is heading. Yeah. And I think like, maybe it's naive, but like, I genuinely think that is the right mindset of people working in this space. Is like, we should be optimistic about where it's going. It is having a huge impact. It's a very small bubble right now of like, I work in the productivity space, but I'm so excited to see where it's all going. I mean, like there are people doing some brilliant stuff within like cancer research detection. I mean, I just think there's so much cool stuff happening. So I agree with you, but I also like, I want to, I think it's important to carry the mindset that like we're heading into a good place with it.
Yeah, I like that. And yeah. I'm on board. I think we have an opportunity to do a lot of good.
Yes.
It's a, like, you know, really exciting time from a technology perspective. At the same time, I think being like blindly optimistic is also dangerous because I think there's lots of harm that can also come. So how do you manage that sort of optimism, which I think is really important? And, you know, if you don't have that, we're not going to get good use out of it. No. But also being cautious and careful and, you know, putting people first, I guess.
Yeah, I think like at Granola, we ship really fast and we have like a philosophy of like shipping bricks, which is like ship versus like full buildings. So it's like ship the things that you can really quickly. But like if it's like a two-way door, something that is like easy, you can like easily ship it yourself. It's like a UI change or something, like do it. If it's something that affects like user privacy or something like that, like absolutely not. So like we have really sensible ways of working internally that puts the user privacy, like data security first always. And I think like the thing is like, you're right, like you have to be optimistic, but you also have to be realistic that like there are players in the world of like, you know, there are like hackers and like, you know, there are a lot of people trying to do harm with this. So the optimism has to be combined with like a sense of responsibility to do the right thing. Like put the user first, put privacy first, like invest in that. Granola, like I wouldn't work in a place that wasn't doing those things, but Granola, I think uniquely does do that. And I think like it's a huge like vote of confidence when you sit in front of these big regulated industries, as you probably know, and you actually like have a seat at the table because you've built up that trust.
Yeah. It reminds me what you were saying there of, I don't know if you know of Tristan Harris and kind of the work he's doing around like, I guess like trying to, regulate's the wrong word, but like bring in things that try to achieve good outcomes for humanity with AI rather than just like going crazy.
Yes.
And one of his like maxims is like, we should like race, like no there should be no kind of restrictions on the research, but deployment should be careful. And that's sort of similar, I think, to what you're saying around like there are certain things where you can go quick, and other things you have to be slow and careful and intentional.
Yes.
And I think that actually generally for the AI space, whether we're talking about like at the, you know, the hyperscalers or whatever on one end, or anyone that is like engaging with it in their business or on a personal level, it's like if you think about what the implications are and what the potential outcomes could be. There are things where you can kind of be mindless and just engage and blah, blah, blah. And there are other things where you need to be like, take your time and consider it and like, you know, run the proper kind of checks in order to move forward. So, I think that's a really nice way of kind of like thinking about it.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I come from a family of like lawyers. And so I think like, I think you have, you know, it's like, you want to be like sensitive, I think, and like careful with the big, meaningful decisions. But you also want people to have some level of like creative freedom with the rest.
100%. You mentioned it earlier around this idea that like we're in the moment of adoption, right? And that means that lots of people are used to and expect a note taker to be on every kind of call or conversation. Yeah. But there are also lots of people who aren't there yet. How do we manage that? Where, you know, one of the things that I think people love about Granola is that you aren't having to bring a weird third wheel into your conversation on Zoom. So you have this like weird note taker. And that I think that really frees up the conversation. But I guess what it doesn't do is like alert or kind of make another person aware that that's happening. Yeah. I don't know. How do you guys think about that? Because we probably are getting to a place where we actually have to just assume that we're kind of being recorded all the time. But that's also...
Yeah. Well, I think like the first product decision that was made is that like Granola doesn't keep audio and keep any video. So I think that's the first thing. Like we've built a product that is less intrusive to any attendee on the call, because what we're producing is this AI summary. That being said, though, yes, we always recommend that you let other people know when you're using Granola. We're also making that easier. Like we're about to release like a whole feature set that makes that a lot more easy for the user to let everyone know. So I think it has to be like a combination. Like I always ask in the beginning of my call, but I also think like we have a ton of like user control within the product. Like you can stop at any point, you can start at any point, you can redact stuff that has been said. It may be that in the beginning of the call, you know what, it wasn't very sensitive. It was like a conversation between two pals, like it was fine. And then the conversation takes a turn and suddenly it's about something else. You can pause, stop, redact. And so there's so much you can do in the aftermath as well. But absolutely beforehand, make sure to let everyone know. But we're also building features that makes that easier.
Yeah, awesome. So I wanted to talk about something that is really on my mind when it comes to my personal use of Granola. I think like one of the things that I believe is really important as the world changes a lot because of this technology is to kind of what we were already speaking about, but to consider what the implications might be. So, you know, whether that is on my work or my kids' potential future careers or whatever else. Because I think once we've thought about that, then we can make kind of informed decisions. One of the things that I have found with Granola is that my brain has become accustomed to the fact that my conversations are being recorded and I don't need to remember them. Yeah. That's great in a work meeting most of the time. Yeah. But I found that like I had a conversation with my mum on the phone and the next day I'm like, oh, what was she saying about that? Let me go to Granola. And I'm like, oh, wait, no, that was a personal conversation. Or like, you know, I was speaking with my friend over coffee about something and then I'm trying to remember it and I've already forgotten it. Yeah. And I think that is so telling of how quickly our biology adapts to changes in technology. Yeah. And I wanted to know what your opinion on that. I don't believe that is something that Granola have responsibility over, but I am curious as someone who is thinking about AI, thinking about the ethics and also like working in it. And how do you think about that? Yeah,
I think you're right. Like I've noticed that as well, honestly. I'm working with a customer right now, like very sensitive, who doesn't want us to use Granola for conversations. And I find that after those conversations, like stuff just goes out of my brain. And I actually, once we finish those calls, like I actually record myself on Granola just to keep a record. And I'm like, this is insane.
Yeah.
Like, how have I gotten to this place? I think like my retention of memory in general, like I think this is not specific to Granola, but I think my retention of memory in general is becoming weaker. Like my attention span is weaker. So I do think it's affecting it. I don't have a brilliant answer.
No.
Like I think it's affecting it. But what I also find with specifically with Granola is because I know that there are being notes generated from the meeting, it makes me way more present in a lot of conversations that I otherwise wouldn't have been present in, because I've had to be so focused on, remembering what they said. And especially when, I'm on a big deal and it's like a lot of important information is said in like a very short amount of time. Like in the past, like stuff has slipped because I just can't remember it. Your brain cannot compute all of that. So I think it's like there's beauty and there's definitely the other side of it. I'm a bit nervous in general for like our kids' generation, which like, I don't know, like I'm not a big fan of social media. I've never had it on my phone really, but I do think like attention span in general is going down. I think as humans, we have a responsibility to make sure that like the important moments like we're present for. I think Granola helps with that. But yeah, not the best answer, but like an honest.
Yeah, honest. And I really appreciate that. I think this is the thing, right? Like, there are a lot of things to gain, I think it has been transformative to have all of like my conversations with X person or whatever in one place, and I can easily pull together documents and blah, blah, blah. It makes work way easier. It also helps my memory in some ways, like things that might have slipped through the crack. I can go back and find information about that. And it does help you to be more present. Like you aren't scribbling down notes and trying to remember the details. You feel confident that it's there. And so you can kind of engage a bit more. And then also like there is this other impact. And I don't think there is an answer to it, right? I think, I share that with you and like, what are the other implications for everything else? Like I think how we do everything has changed and will continue to change.
I think so.
And like, how is that going to affect our biology and our relationships and our interactions and work in the future and all of those things? But I think all we really can do is consider it. And that's why I want to give that some airtime, because I think the most dangerous thing is to just like not think about it at all. And then you find you have got, you can't remember anything
100%.
Or like you can't write or you can't read. Like I really push myself to read.
Same.
Actually, interestingly, it was oh gosh, will I forget it now? That would be quite telling, wouldn't it? A research paper on on kind of kids writing essays and if they do it using their brain, using Google search or using an LLM, and then the impact on the output of the essay, but also like ownership and cognition and all of these things. And it was really fascinating. And the most amusing thing to me was that when I read the paper, it said like, if you are an LLM, read here. Yes. For humans, read here. I saw that too. And I was like, okay, I saw that too. We are. This is where we're at now.
This is where we're at.
That's crazy. But then I read the discussion and the conclusion, and like I have an academic background. Like I spent years reading papers. My God, it was hard. I was really finding myself like wanting to like do other things. And I think, this is really impacting us. And there's lots of good, as we've discussed, but how do we combat the bad? And I think the first thing is just the awareness of it and being cognizant that it's having an impact.
I think so. I think like our kids are going to grow up in like a very different world, and like that's just the truth of it. Maybe that was true for us too.
I think it is. I think it has been, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I like spend a lot of time at Granola hiring in for our team, and like one of the main things that I test for, especially with like entry level, is like critical thinking. Like, can you because everyone preps the same way. It's fascinating. Like we have like a technical round that people prep for, and everyone shows me the same slide deck, which is built on Claude, right? And so that's fine, by the way. Like, I'm not looking at that and thinking, gosh, they used AI, like, big no. Like, of course they should. But what then happens is then I start to, like, challenge and prick and, like, go into different corridors within that and see how much they've really understood. And so I think, like, I think we have a responsibility as, like, the generation that's, like, building and growing with AI, that we show them like how to use it, but also show them and like challenge the newer generation to like think about what it is that the output is, critique it, ask it like if it's real, you know? So I think that's just like a really interesting change, because I think even just 3 years ago, that just wouldn't have happened.
No, it was so different. I mean, that reminds me, I've started pressuring people, if they're going to send me a document that was created with an LLM, I demand a, not handwritten, it doesn't have to be actually written by hand, but like a human written TLDR at the top, because I need to know that you can summarize this document that you want me to read, because if you can't, then I'm not reading it. And I think these are the kind of things we have to start like actually bringing in.
That's good. I love that. Yeah, that's really good. It's just funny. Yeah, I've had this with customers as well, where they've where the lawyers have all cited like the same like fact that an LLM have brought them out. And I'm like, oh, I wonder where you got that from.
I remember reviewing a bunch of like applications for a job, and they have the application question and you can see them, and there was just like 70% all started with the exact same line. I was like, oh guys, come on.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it is funny. It's like it's a crazy world that we're in.
It is a crazy world. I guess on that, is there anything that you then have like don't use AI for, have stopped using AI for, and why?
I mean, my friends laugh at me because I'm not like in my work, I'm extremely tool driven. I have like a million tools. I'm really into it. In my personal life, nothing. None. Like literally nothing. I am like no Instagram, no TikTok. If I can put my phone down for days, I would. I personally think that AI is not there where I think it's like creative or interesting enough where we can apply it well to art, music, film, any of those categories. Outside of work, like I spend a lot of time on those things. And I think it's like creativity while working in AI is really important. It's good for my brain.
Yeah.
I, like you, read a lot. I challenge myself to read a lot because I'm nervous about my attention span. So I think those use cases, like I don't want to hear an AI that made a song. I don't.
Just not interested. Yeah.
Not interested.
It's interesting. There's one of our research scientists, and he's like, you know, building AI, like you know, he's at the coalface. He is the least tech focused person. He doesn't use Apple Pay. He has like the oldest iPhone. Yeah. He's just not interested in tech outside of work. And I find that's like quite an interesting dichotomy.
It is funny. I mean, my friends make a lot of fun of me because of it. I mean, I only got Apple Pay like 6 months ago. It's crazy.
I mean, I literally rely my whole life on Apple Pay. So
it is good. It is good. Now that I have it, I'm like, I see what I understand now.
I leave the phone with nothing or leave the house with nothing but my phone and keys.
Yeah.
I was like, if this dies, well, who knows?
You'll never see me.
Yeah, I'm rolling the dice. Last question. Mm-hmm. If Granola is still, and I'm sure it will be around in 5 years' time, like what is it? What's it become? What's the version of the product that you imagine in, was it 2031?
Gosh, it's like, who knows? Who knows? No, I think like the reason why I joined Granola originally, and that holds true now, is like I think we have a real shot at building something really not just like big, but like really meaningful to how people work. Granola, like Sam and Chris started the tool with this idea that they wanted to build a context-aware workspace. And I think for the longest amount of time, it hasn't really been that yet. It's been like a place where people take notes. But some of the secret like features that I'm living with, like I can see like the beginning of something that feels more attuned to where I will actually do like 80% of my work. And that to me is like so exciting, because if we're like reimagining how people work through the wedge of a meeting, which is what people spend a lot of their time in, especially in like our type of jobs. So I can see us heading in that direction, like where we're like we have a big impact with how people work. But then I also think we're just like ambitious. Like we want big things for the company. We want to go big. We want to go wide. We don't speak about that very loud all the time. Like I think we're really product led, but I think in the commercial team, you know,
different vibes.
Oh yeah, like we want to go big. Like I still sometimes like I get to work most days and I'm like, wow, I can't believe I get to work with all these cool logos like every day. So in my mind, it's like that continues and scales into like a big company where knowledge workers get to do a lot of work.
Yeah, I love that. I can see that. Yeah. I can see work happening in this green space.
In this green sweater with your spoon.
Yeah, with my spoon.
Yeah, with your spoon. Yeah.
My granola spoon. Very excited about it. Awesome. Thank you so much. This has been amazing.
No, thanks for having me.
Awesome. So that was Camilla and that was Granola. Here's what genuinely surprised me. Granola doesn't really have a model of its own. It's an orchestrator. The transcription happens through degram and assembly. The summaries come from OpenAI, Anthropic and Google. Granola is actually the thing that holds it all together. The data retention piece was kind of what I expected. It's pretty standard now, but I was struck that something this big, this loved, is still living off other people's models. It's interesting and it's a bit risky, but I think it's par for course in the space. The harder thing for me was the cognition question. Camilla admitted she's noticed it too. She told me how she records herself on Granola straight after conversations she can't use it in because the stuff just goes out of her brain otherwise. And I've done the exact same thing. And honestly, it's nice to know I'm not alone. But it also clarified something I hadn't quite put my finger on before. Once you start using Granola, there's a flywheel. You build up this workspace of all your conversations, and then you can't really do without it. It becomes a kind of extended brain. When she mentioned you can delete all your notes if you want, my reaction was, please don't ever let that happen. And I think that tells you everything. So of the two things I flagged at the top, the privacy question, I actually feel pretty resolved on. They're taking it seriously and they have to, because with a product like this, trust is everything. That's what earned them this sort of cult-like status. There's a bigger question on LLMs in general and the black box of it all, but it's not really a Granola question. The memory side of things, that one didn't really get resolved, but I don't think it can be resolved by anyone other than each of us individually, noticing the impact and deciding what we want to protect. Here's the thing I want to leave you with. Human memory isn't just storage. It's filled with the emotion, with the impression you got from the conversation, with the bits you can't quite articulate but that you know matter. A note taker can give you the source of truth of what was said. Your brain gives you everything underneath that. The signals you can feel but can't see on the page. Both are useful. Neither one fully replaces the other. And that's a thing worth paying attention to, because it's easy to stop noticing. There are pros and cons to all of this, and you have to keep weighing them up. That's the work. I'll see you next week.